employment attractiveness. This simply means what should businesses look for when considering hiring somebody? Is it their education, their display of intelligence? So the whole topic is education versus intelligence. As in, which one is more important? Intelligence is defined as one's ability to understand the environment that they are in and to apply knowledge from elsewhere and use background information and interpret situations that are in and apply it to the setting that they are in.
And what is education?
Education is
what you learn.
Man like Alesta who got Yui and Jolando who got a psychology. What? Psychology degree? Psychology. So yeah, this one here for I bashing all you, yeah.
No, I ain't no bashing.
I gonna bash you because in my opinion.
Because I have my a strong educational background doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent though. So you're not bashing me?
Because, but what did it take for you to get your education status in terms of your certification? Regurgitation of information?
No.
It could be that. Because I was in class with I was in A1s for the whole of high school. So I was in class with people like, you know, and the man hard. But the man only hard on paper because if you stop them, and I ran them there and asked them a question about geography from last week. They don't really remember, you know. But then when the tests come now, them are home in the book hard.
So we're looking at the street smart versus the book sense.
Basically. But even the book sense, it's like, yeah, how do you obtain this certification? You're actually learning in UE or you're just regurgitating information.
Exactly.
That's what I mean, like you hear something and you just put it on paper when the exam come. Like, how you feel like, you know?
I feel like
it
goes both ways. Because yes, I know people who just crammed the night before an exam and spit it out on paper, and at the end of the day, they graduate with a certificate. But can they apply that same knowledge in a work setting? That's one thing. But there's another instance where some people are just designed for that workplace. Like for instance, if you are a woodworker, a mason,
yeah, we understand.
Learning and application.
If you're into architecture, those kind of things, you kind of already understand how to have an interpretation of what the work requires. You know, and so you don't necessarily have to go to school and get an education. It would be nice, but those are things that you can pick up on the job, and it doesn't mean that you are not educated either.
But I would also like to add to the discussion and basically say that a lot of people don't realize that education is different from workplace setting. So for example, you could have the best education, but you still have to be able to apply that material into that specific setting. As much as you might learn the most about business, your job itself might not be specific. It might be holistic in terms of different aspects you might be really, really tapping into. So people have to be able to still know that you don't have to have a degree, but you can still have common sense and you have the willingness to learn, which I think where Sakian was going.
But
and then they could be able to apply the knowledge based on the training and also find ways to improve a business model.
My question, I have a question for Sakian. Before I could really get into responding, is your question that education is less important than you being applicable intelligent? I feel it's kind of tough to separate the two. Because you can be intelligent and still be educated and still be educated.
Which one
to me personally,
which one weighs more? That's what I want here.
Like,
people are educated because they can afford the education. So I mean, the man that cannot afford the education versus the person that can afford the education. I mean the person that could afford it smarter than the person that can't afford it.
Okay.
Basically, because me from Newton and people them and again people in my class figure there half moon.
But kind of,
so it's
it's a tricky thing because yes, people who have an education are a little bit smarter because they learn. They're in a setting to learn. They might know.
They could invest in material to learn.
They might know the smaller things. In terms
I think he means natural ability.
Natural
ability, not
mostly.
Maybe not being smarter than you because I have acquired a wealth of information over time. But natural ability, and I can agree. Well, for some, because you know everybody is IQ is different, but I think that definitely education should not be the main determining factor, I guess, based on the job you're applying for, because you can't be a lawyer without a law degree.
Shit.
/ pass in the bar.
Exactly.
Psychologist without having a PhD.
Okay then, boy. Okay.
But then when it comes to a situation like you want a job, let's say, as a cashier, and I guess they want to make sure that you pass maths and English and what's not. I gonna go down there. I gonna want in maths. I can't. You could barely count. I just work hard for that. So I guess that's where the conversation really comes in. But somebody else who really goes with numbers, who didn't really have the opportunity that I have to decide, okay, well, let me go do maths and
Yeah.
They will be less at a disadvantage at being hired.
But even in the schools, right? Being in a one, right? The teachers them that they assigned to the A1s them is like the top-notch teachers them. The teachers them that got experience. The teachers them that are playing different learning strategies in the classrooms, and in the classes them you find like the A5 and so they getting like the rook teacher them.
It's true. And
people that just come to teach. It's like who need it ain't getting it. But that's the same thing.
That's confirming to the labels. The labels.
And that was the biggest thing. That was the biggest only person I could really say they used to give like to the lower classes was Miss Hector. Miss Hector, you wouldn't find Miss Hector teaching like the A1 and the A2s and so. No, maths. So it's like that other than Miss Hector, I never used to see them getting like nobody with experience and like longevity in the all of that.
No, it's true. Even but you can't even ask me
I think that
alone. But us being there, we could have seen it too. And all that comes in with the whole conforming to the label that once you're in a lower class or you're from the street, that's how you'll be labeled that you have less ability, you amount to. I see a comment. The setting, including background, is amazing.
Loving
it. Thank you.
We're outside. We're outside. But yeah, but
it kind of it enforces the whole idea that you're in the category of men not amount to nothing, so let's just not work any harder to show you
I'm gonna say, right?
It happens.
Personally, I think that I think the whole education system needs revamping in terms of showing the importance of, okay, let's not pressure everybody to pass maths or English, but just show them the importance of a trade. I mean,
but
realistically, but what I'm saying is realistically too, they still need to equip other persons who might not excel in certain other things. The importance that they too, in their own right, in their own profession, can also excel and be great. Because the reality of it is this: Ayana goes to work, Naomi goes to work, I go to work, right? Basically, what I'm saying is, a trade can still give you just as much profit or more than somebody who is salaried.
Exactly.
Like for example, I did a renovation in my home bathroom about 2 weeks ago. That was $1,500. He came for 2 days, $1,500. Now, let's say on average that he gets 3 jobs a month. He's making almost $5,000 a month,
so
which is basically the equivalent to a degree scale based on the government system. The same person who has a degree working in a government institution is making the same money as the person who has a trade. But 9 times out of 10, the guidance counselors and the other persons are not really giving them the push that they need to say, yes, you might not have this and this, but you're still able to be just as qualified or just as important in society 10 years on the road when you leave high school.
In 2020, 2021, we still have that stigma against vocational learning? Because I remember when I was in high school, which was, I don't know, maybe like 7 years ago. From first form go right up to fifth form, there was always this stigma against AVIC. There was I don't know if because they were in the lower classes, I don't know what, but there was also the stigma against people who wants to do a trade. Even when you go to CFBC, people who don't go TechVac, it was always the stigma of TechVac versus ASGS or TechVac versus the main.
It's true.
And in 2021, we're still here. So
I went to TechVac. I'm a product of TechVac.
And it's like everybody knows.
I went and did IT at TechVac level, and as a result of that, I got my job at working at the Department of IT. Years later, I went and I did an undergraduate degree in business management, Bachelor of Commerce, and I'm still able to apply a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and ultimately put me in a better standing.
Why do you think
so that's what I'm saying. That
but not only that, I wanted to pick up on
schools.
something you said, that where is the emphasis placed on having maths and English. And honestly, I feel like the reason why a lot of the teachers at the school maybe place emphasis on that is because a lot of the jobs require you to have it.
Agree.
So it goes back to them
you're
trying to
right.
make it applicable for the jobs. No, but I definitely agree that they need to push not the idea that you have to be a lawyer, a doctor, which requires you to have this long educational background, but trade is also a good field of career.
And I realize the people then with trade is the one them who independent, and I can't tell them nothing. If they want to shop 5 o'clock, when you give them a job for 3 o'clock, I can't do nothing because I want to think fix. But yet we want to give them this stigmatization as if like they are less, their job description is less than a lawyer or less than a banker or less than anybody else working in other sorts of office job.
Agree.
And it's like these are the same ones who are independent. We can't they
but what
work
I
for
think they need to
themselves.
also encourage and promote is the fact that we all need each other. We all need each other. I mean, I work in health, and it's just like the garbage. If the garbage is not collected for a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the long-term impact of that. I mean, simple things that could come from, the garbage, creating viruses, illnesses. They start to become a pile. Rats. You know what I mean? It's a whole domino effect. But people would always look down on them. In America, in North America, the people who collect garbage make $100,000 a year because they know that they're prone to so many illnesses. They're prone to so many this. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that we still need to revamp our society to get our minds thinking different.
It's funny.
Yo, just take 1 and make it 5.
Yeah.
But that's good. That's perfect. That's why we're here. But I mean, but as Jolanda does say, you say 1, you say 2. So as I was saying, like, even though most of the people them that are intelligent naturally back to the original topic. Mostly can afford to invest in the school, as in buying the textbook, the workbooks, the necessary material in order for them to succeed or excel.
They still have that program.
Self. But self is limited to so much. So if you can't get workbooks and so it's just textbooks.
I'm going to add to what you said too. I think that persons in the Caribbean specifically, I think that they sometimes get so complacent in winging it. And I use winging it a little strong by a person who come from wherever. There are a lot of success stories in society where the persons literally did not have it. And they still rose to somebody today.
And that's what you say when you say too.
So a lot of times people would say, well, this person was naturally talented, and maybe they just had the right support to just push them a little further for them to reach a little further in life. You know what I mean? A lot of times I think people sleep on potential.
Stick up in.
It really goes
you
back to the
realize
labeling
that
thing.
I don't want to cause no controversy, but the people who grow up in the environment where the parents are able to give them everything they need, whatever you need, here you go, are the ones who just turn around and just throw it up in the air.
9 times out of 10.
Take it for
9
granted.
times out of 10. You
Take it
see
for
that
granted.
all the time. We are people who have the opportunity, who are given the necessary essentials, more than what they need. They take it and they just throw it up in the air.
Yeah, I never see that before.
You never see that
No, it
before?
happens. It definitely happens.
It
It happens is that you're born with the gold spoon, silver spoon, whichever spoon you want to call it.
And then the mommy and daddy.
You already know the lifestyle has been made for you. Even if I don't pass, guess what? Mommy
and
own
daddy
this property,
going.
daddy own this property. They just sell it and,
But it's still...
well, we're going for vacation, Cabo. Like, no, it's true. Some of them take it for granted. So now we know that definitely the household actually plays a huge role, because even though we can acknowledge the fact that some of the students in the remedial classes don't have access to all of the materials, as a teacher, sometimes I try not to just base everything on the textbook, and if I do use the textbook, because I know a lot of people don't have, I will print stuff. But guess what? It goes back down to how much you personally want it, and the background of your household now plays a role again, because it's more like, well, my mother ain't harassing me, so no teacher gonna harass me to do no work.
Yeah,
you understand? So it's not only the accessibility to stuff, because some teachers really do try, as much as they know You know, you might have it hard at home, you might have less access to stuff. They do try to, some of them even use their personal funds. But it's really how much some of the students in those middle classes want it and want to achieve.
But as you say, it's the household, because I was only in them A1 day because my mother wouldn't let me slack. Like from a very young age, it's like kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2. Licks, yeah. Real life licks, like my down, my licks.
I used to get licks.
So,
Of course.
I used to get licks.
Remember if it
Let
was
us know in the
for
comments.
school?
I used to get
Timetables.
Nah, it wasn't for school.
I used to
Baby,
get mental.
more for like not washing washing the dishes. I think mommy, I want to ban me for not washing the dishes.
But yeah, but that wasn't me thing.
Mentors used to be a thing on a Monday morning. I'm sure Bevan could.
Ours was
You know.
Wednesday morning.
No, Monday morning when you think that you're just going back into school and like
You see, I get mad. So they
And everyone, you get one, the last year. Why? Why we
but
it's
I
colonial
get mentors
thing?
from there
But
one.
it's like that. I
See,
mean, if it wasn't for my mother to like set down me early, so it's like after grade 2, and so it's like after that she didn't even have to monitor like how I doing in school, because it's like in my head it done like embedded in me like, but you gotta do your work here.
Parents play a huge role, and even when
Definitely.
I agree, and I agreed. I also think that it overlaps from the school setting and the home setting. And I also think that people have to understand the concept that you have to know what you want and know what you don't want, and whatever you put your mind to is achievable. I tell people this
But
all the
you
time.
say it the other day, the
You have
people
to
them
really
that
choose.
always gone, they weave them and they gone, their face beat and so. Like they ain't investing the money in the right places. Yeah. You said that the other day, last year.
But it's
Because it's like imagine if you spend the money on your son or your child to go after school classes, or like you invest it instead of going party, instead of going topics.
Extracurricular.
Let me try, show them in this,
Activities.
give him a little online learning also. Cause everything on YouTube, yeah. So it's like you really got an excuse nowadays, like
we're in the information.
like
era.
school is kind of
Information.
obsolete
My
now.
parents' time and Ayana's parents' times,
Oh,
they
God,
they had. I don't know if y'all remember encyclopedias, where people used to have this encyclopedia and you go
A
to a
to C,
library
D
and
to
you
E.
sit down and you
I
Google.
have all the encyclopedias
I
home.
mean, literally, you got Siri right now. I can pull up Siri right now and say, Siri, what is so and so?
Google.
And it comes up. Like, you have no excuse.
You really don't have an excuse.
You have no
And
excuse.
I
But
mean,
it's funny that
places.
people only think the internet is Facebook,
Of course.
YouTube videos, music videos, not.
But we
voice
learn
and
economics
back
off of
and-
YouTube.
Yeah, and TikTok. Like, come on, I don't know. I have a hard time swallowing this because it's just like, why are we here? Why don't people know that there's this vast information on the internet? Because even
It
Jolanda was saying, like, even the textbooks, like you could go on the internet and Google that shit, you know. You could go home on the
I buy
internet.
like one textbook in you. I buy like.
You had
I remember
textbook?
buying
Me
something
had
my
a
first and
textbook.
second semester.
I
And
didn't
then I
have
would
it.
literally-
What I was showing is like you really don't have an excuse, like especially places like CFBC and so like that got libraries and so like you
But
just
then
go
you
in
have
the
to also
library.
understand that a lot of the generation before us, our parents did not have
The resources
not the resources, but they don't really know how to use technology.
to the advantage.
But I mean this next set now, like hey, especially my little brother, but
But
he
like
ain't got a
as-
reason to not like bad up school here because them man you give a controller and he telling you 90s and Fortnite and all kind of thing. We never know what we
I
don't
think
know what
it
you're
comes down to
talking about.
priorities again. Sakia,
Exactly.
because
It come
like I
down to
said,
your household.
I think that people need to
Comes
know what you
down
want
to
and what
your
you don't
household.
want. And I think that we live in an era where you be all at the same 24 hours in a day. It's all about what you choose to do with it.
But say
You know
it
what
is
I
a
mean?
third world country, eh?
Not
So-
really. It's much further than a third world country. That's a different discussion.
But going back
Yeah.
to the whole
The-
conversation
the-
of
But it could be
we are
politics got something to it
developing.
too.
We are developing.
Come on,
country.
But
politics
third
got
world,
something
I
to
think
it.
we're far from
going
that.
back
Who
to the
gets what?
conversation
Who
of
gets what?
being hired with skills and trades.
Really
It come,
cracking.
yeah. I'm pulling it back. I feel that's how we need to appeal to the society. Okay. I think we felt that. We need to appeal to the society and let them know that really and truly it's the whole mindset and the whole culture that we have that we try to reinforce on the younger generation and the generations to come that this career is not good enough in the masses' eyes. So it's really an us problem.
Is that us?
Or
I'm
you
gonna-
problem coming.
I'm going to add to what Jolanda said. I know of persons who work in government from they were 18, right? Just using government as an example. 10 years later, like there's a 10-year gap between me and Sakian. So let's just say realistically, right, that Sakian can start off in a job at 19, right, making let's say $2,000 a month. And if he applies himself, whether he has the opportunity to go overseas to better himself, he could still take classes at UE, open campus. I mean, we're literally 5 minutes from it. He could still do a semester where he takes 3 classes. And over that 8-year period, he might not have gotten it in 5 years, but the goal is that at the end of it, he would have been a lot further, leaving that institution, managing his time, managing his resources, and be further ahead.
Instead of being in the
rather
same
than
position.
sitting down and saying, oh, well, the government didn't do this, Labour didn't do this for me.
Yeah.
Another
Wait till-
thing, we need to done with this self-pity. I don't know who tuned in last week. I feel like we had a little technical issues last week and I spoke on that. Yeah,
I don't.
But this self-pity thing got to done.
Of course.
As I was saying, I like to reiterate it. Last week, I was speaking on the fact that, yeah, I grew up in a household with a single parent, my mother. And yeah, if it was not one job, it was 2 or 3 jobs to get by, to provide by any means. Textbook, uniform, anything. No excuses because guess what? You got your train them, you know what you sign up for. So provide. So it brings back to the whole conversation. Done this self-pity story.
So
you know what you want? Even if you want that, even if you have to save the second paycheck so that you could be more comfortable in the next year, do that. But
agreed.
done
So
this
you
self-pity
think you
story.
got bad parenting? Some name bad parenting?
Definitely. And that's what brings me back to
That's
the
why they
whole.
won't go look at second job or third job to think. They just
I think
they
it's
just
because
steady
They
and
just
come
say and send
say,
me
but
train
yeah,
them
but hey,
school without
government-
eating and them kind of nonsense. Yeah, it's definitely got bad
society
parents.
pressures because a lot of people would say, well, Ayana is working as the chief, whoever, in an institution making $5,000. But if Ayana knows that she want to work on her master, then she said, listen, when I finish work at 4 o'clock, which I know that I work in between 8 to 4 ain't really much doing, and she go and she pump gas and make an extra $1,500 a month. People will look at her and be like, she's crazy.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Rather than saying, Ayana is a young person who is actually trying to support herself. And the same
Sure.
mouth and the same person would still turn around and quicker say, well, Ayana going with other men to get by. But I'm just saying that as an example. I'm just saying that as an example. But they say that most persons would never really want to applaud her on her hustle.
No, it's
They would
true.
quicker say, well, why is she going to put herself down in a situation like that rather than empowering her and saying, Ayana, I really like your advice, I like your vibe, I like your energy, I like the fact that you see that you have whatever situation is going on, you're going to be working on your master, she's just doing what she have to do.
And not only you need to done with this self-pity, but done with this judgmental shit. We live in a very judgmental society, done with it.
Still.
And then other than done with the judgmental mentality you guys have, how about us? Kill the noise.
Yeah.
And I always say, yeah,
We always have to be
haters,
optimistic
So,
about things. We always have
if
to
they
be
ain't say
optimistic
nothing,
about
then
things.
Like-
If it is that you see somebody doing something, don't judge and be negative about their situation, because I think somebody said, like, don't ever say that can't be me.
And that's one thing 2020 has taught us.
Like,
that
yo,
will never
it could be
mimic-
anybody. Stop it. Stop it.
I think sometimes
when you see somebody, just cut it. Just shut up. Just
Employment
don't say nothing.
attractiveness.
Kill the noise.
That was the topic. Just in case you forget. Yeah, we move on. I mean, everybody get a mouthful.
Yeah.
The Chinese $7 chicken for rice with curry sauce.
Wait, did we conclude what
So-
employment people?
But that's legit.
Education
So
and-
it's
I
like
tried to pull it
so
back.
to this
before
last
all-
ones, like on the resume. But how could you prove intelligence without having a
I think
job?
I think
like-
it boils down from culture and historic things.
But
This
then
is
how
how
you
they
gonna
look
show
at.
them? You can't put I'm intelligent on
So
the
now we
resume.
need to appeal to these employers that yo, you
Application
can't,
is the
resume doesn't say anything. I
The
can have the
application is the
fanciest
real deal.
resume and come down and sit up and don't do nothing.
But it's the
Facts.
same thing.
Also,
Facts.
I'll
But it could be
contradict what
in the-
Ayana is saying on the same topic. Now, Ayana goes away to university, Ayana gets her degree, and then I come home and she's naturally the boss. Now, it always causes a toss-up in conversation where what makes her who come back after a 4-year degree versus me who have been here for 20 years. My thing is, the intelligence and the whole employment and all that, to me, that person in that 20 years working in that environment may have done nothing to better themselves.
Yeah.
So they still have maybe a little bit of work experience, but are they really using the best practices? Are they really coming and really adding value to the institution? That's what the like the old people would say, you separate the sheep from the wolf. Because the reality is that you who come in with a degree will have a different level of knowledge and expertise than somebody who has just been there. You're expected to.
But you don't necessarily have it.
A different perspective. So it must hold some level of weight. And that's why I go back to the same thing where I made the example that the person working in the environment for 10 years, you must within yourself know that you're working to improve yourself. You can't tell me that you're leaving an institution after 10 years and nothing has changed. So then basically you're wasting your time and the institution's time.
We must acknowledge the fact though, even though I agree with you, you come back from the university expected to have more expertise, but we must acknowledge the fact that some of the businesses bypass you just because you don't have the degree, even though you know you're capable, even though you're innovative,
so
even though they're probably going to adhere to your suggestion. They bypass you because guess what, me paying them for an associate degree, that's all you got, even though working there for 10 years. We must acknowledge that, and that's sad.
But what?
So you're coming back to the culture again.
As he was saying though, like the whole education system needs to be
revamped.
Exactly. So if you do that, appeal to intelligence education system. That's what you need to do. Instead of saying like you're basically saying like okay, move from regurgitation to intelligence. As in allow the man that intelligent to showcase his intelligence on paper in order to get his certification.
I also
opportunity to leave room for
something too.
Somebody
because this whole sit down and take exam thing ain't working out. I in university and the night before an exam I am cramming to just spit whatever I learned last night and put it on paper and all of a sudden
speak for yourself. Because Jordan and I didn't do that.
All of a sudden I'm making 2 times more as somebody else. The whole exam thing, even from high school, primary school, come way up. And I feel like the whole education system needs to be revamped because where did this come from? Colonization.
This
whole exam sit down, space out thing. Come from colonization, everybody ain't the same. And I feel like in 2021, if we don't really acknowledge the fact that everybody is not the same, stop having all kind of different animals going into the same system and expecting the same
one single measuring stick.
Stop it.
So and it go back to like in high school for 5 years, right? 5 years, 365 days for the year, right? Like when I finish it, I do that. But yeah, 5 years I mean high school, right? And after that 5 years, one day, 2.5 hours in a day,
dictates.
are doing an exam
that
gonna
dictates
say
your life.
like what? After 5 years, how would I compare to 2.5 hours?
I lived my best life in high school, and it's when after the 5 years when I was in 5th form, I was like, okay, see now this is what gonna get me into CFBC. Let me buckle down. But somehow I used to do it.
But I mean, it's like that one exam there should dictate your intelligence or dictate where your next step be in life.
Agreed.
Sure.
So it's like what we could do though.
And then let me just add to what Saki said too. You could travel overseas and some of the same sexes don't even mean nothing. So realistically, you still have to take an entry exam. For most persons who don't know, you still have to take an entry exam into university, which actually allows you to say where you're going to be put into a maths class, where you're going to be put into an English class. You know what I mean? So it's still, is it really holding the weight that it
but not.
It holds the weight for the
kind. We missed a very important point. Regardless of whether or not you have a degree, right? The workplace, you still have to learn the workplace environment, the culture, the technique, everything. So it's like you do this whole book story in university, and time you're going into the workplace, it's a whole another ball game. So it's like the application is still different. I guess they're just testing the fact that yes, you're good at remembering stuff, because if you pass your degree, it just shows that you're good at remembering stuff. So I guess that's what I like.
And also, just to add to what
Yeah,
Jolanda said, I'm going to wrap up now.
Let me wrap up my topic.
Honestly, we could talk on it because we see that.
Yeah.
But you know, but just one more thing, just to wrap up the topic. People also have to remember the importance of the time management skills, the emotional intelligence, how do you deal with the customer service skills, because a lot of those things I don't think are taught as much, or as much emphasis is put on it, and as a result you don't really understand that when you're working in a work environment you have to understand the importance of working with a team and having goals, time management, communication skills. How do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? How do you apply
motivate yourself? All of that is essential.
So that's the solution. The solution to all of this employment attractiveness is, firstly, businesses try to appeal to the intelligent ones. Everyone is not allotted the opportunity to go to university and get the certification that you are looking for. However, they can benefit your organization in different ways. Next thing, wait man, Jolanda, let me wrap my topic, because I'm not even done, I'm not even finish half my thing them. Right? So that's the solution. That's what we're looking for. So, thanks, that was my end, that was my tip. Jolanda, we pass it back to you. Everybody, I had another paragraph, but you know, you want to know that time. You want to know that time. Time is money.